Could you give an example from your perspective where there's a little divergence between the interests of the founder and the company?
So the classic example of that is when one of the conditions to closing the M&A deal is that the founders sign up to compensation arrangements, or that they agree to a non-competition agreement after the closing of the deal. Those are examples where, although everybody wants to do the deal, everyone has decided to move forward with it, there are certain things that affect the interests of the founder personally in a way that's different than the company as a whole. And my job, once I've been told by the board of directors to get the deal done, is to get the deal done. With those folks, they're friends of mine, people that I've known for a long time and care about, they need good advice about whether they should agree to something, whether it's on or off market, and how they might be able to skillfully negotiate while still trying to get a deal done. And that's where, again, we need somebody with the kind of diplomatic aplomb that you have in these situations, Doug, and it's why we call on you so often and why you show up in so many deals, not just with our firm, but with others.
Okay, so, well, thank you for that answer and that compliment. I'm not paying Michael for this, by the way. But moving on seriously, let's talk about, we're in the deal right now. An M&A deal is happening. I'm actually usually called much later. You guys have been in from the very beginning. Right. For the people who are viewing this and don't have that much knowledge about what an M&A deal is, could you just very broadly sketch out what's happened so far in this deal? What does it mean, for example, to have a merger agreement or a term sheet? What are the stages in the M&A deal that have happened? And I realize you could teach a course on this, sure. but what are basically, where are we, or what has led up to now the founders getting their own lawyer?
Yeah. So there are a few steps, right? So first, the founders have usually received some encouragement from their investors in the boardroom to pursue a sale opportunity. They have probably had conversations with one or more suitors. They have gone through a due diligence process on a business level with a sponsor within the potential acquirer, and they've gotten to the point of getting a letter of intent, which is not a full agreement. It's just an indication usually of value, some conditions to closing that are required, and some basic contours of the deal. Once we've gotten past that, that's the first point, I think, at which we start to see possible divergence of interest. That LOI, that may be where we see something that says, and the founders will agree to a 2-year non-compete after the deal. Or it's a condition of closing that 3 of the 5 founders accept employment. And then you have to wonder who are the 2 that aren't, right? So that's where we see the first inklings. And it's usually at that point that I'll tell founders, you guys can get separate counsel, and you may want to. And I have a couple of people in mind that you ought to think about speaking with. Very often, though, they'll tell me, well, we want to do this deal too. We're not worried about it yet. But I want to plant that seed at that point in the conversation. And then often, I know, to your chagrin, Doug, it's not until often later on when we finally call in a founder's counsel. But it's usually with a little bit of an I told you so from me that, okay, well, now we really have to get on it.